What's up? Welcome back to my channel, or for the first time if you're new, I'm Sylvan, and today I'm going to be reacting to the Genshin Impact Song of the Welkin Moon teaser, Moonlit Ballad of the Night. Looks like we're getting the Nod-Krai teaser a little sooner than I expected. I was literally just earlier today thinking about when this would come out, and I did not predict tonight, but I am here for it. I'm excited. This thumbnail alone is incredibly exciting to me. We've obviously got the Traveler and Paimon in the center, but then we have the Damselette with the moon behind her. Over here we've got the Marionette and her puppet, or vice versa, depending on what theories you subscribe to. This fucking guy who looks really cool. Isn't there the one Nod-Krai faction called the Lightkeepers or something like that? I imagine, given this like lantern and stuff, and this sort of looks like a lighthouse or something, that potentially that's what faction he belongs to. If so, cool vibe. These two, I have no idea who they might be, what they might be connected to, but I like their vibe as well. We've seen Inefa and Aino before. We've seen whoever she is before. Still thinking she's Frostmoon Scions. But then we have Durin here, which is exciting. I'm incredibly excited to see that. Cool to see a bit of his design. Looks like he still has the wings. Looks like his outfit sort of aligns with his color scheme. I'm liking it. Looks like this is Varka, based on the bit of design we've seen. Looks like he has a big sword. Sort of actually looks like Wolf's Gravestone. And then we have one or two more characters here. I don't know if this is a character or just like a shape. But I'm not sure if they are here to be represented as part of Varka's expedition, and thus parts of the Knights of Favonius, or if they're a separate faction. But either way, this alone, super hype. Well, let's not delay any further, so feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. Leave a comment on your thoughts. Consider becoming a channel member if you want to support me, just that little bit extra. And let's get into this. What do you have for us?
You wish to hear a story of the moon?
Yes, I do.
That tale begins long, long ago.
I imagine it does. Varka immediately. And yeah, that looks like Wolf's Gravestone.
Mister!
I know.
Starting her story already.
Nefer? Okay.
Thanks for the heads up.
I do like his voice. I do like Varka's voice. I know some people might want it to be gruffer, but, you know. Alright, so Durin's here. Is that Nefer? Or someone else? Ooh, looks like a robotic arm? Ooh, star eyes.
Moon's
Okay.
a long way off. We might go hungry, but at least we have plenty of time.
Uh-huh.
Hey, kid. That headpiece of yours is pretty unique.
Not a
Who
headpiece.
designed it? Could you hook me up?
Interesting. I'm liking his design. What are you thinking, Durin? Ah, the inner beast.
In that era, there was no boundary between life and death.
Ah, the three moons. We got the three moons. I love the art style here.
Flowed freely among countless beings.
Okay. This is so distinct looking.
That once ruled this planet,
The primordial
made
being.
3 moons rise from the earth.
We're already getting to that distinctive Nod-Krai sound. I love the instruments they're using. And then we go to the Lightkeepers.
It was not until the funerary year that
Didn't
the
expect him to have the
primordial
long
voice
hair.
once again cried out in the darkness.
Interesting. Oh, whoa. Okay, Fatui, obviously.
The Frostmoon Scions again. A laughably futile rebellion.
Interesting. Rebellion.
Oh, pale white Frostmoon.
Yeah, so Frostmoon Scion, obviously.
Royal emissary and scion of Hyperborea.
Okay,
Beseech
Scion of
you To cast
Hyperborea.
down your gaze from the celestial
I'm loving the
dome
water
above.
animation.
May your
The way it
gentle
went down her
tears
hand.
pierce the frigid night and grant us the forsaken and forgotten.
Ooh,
Your
that
guiding
motif
light.
from the Song of the Welkin Moon. It's there. I have a feeling that's going to be the motif of Nod-Krai.
You
Ooh.
didn't come here for the story, did you?
I'm very interested in her. Her vibe is very
Finished already,
interesting.
huh?
Sharpening
No.
his blade.
It's just a greater storyteller
Ooh.
than myself has come.
Greater storyteller. Okay, I think she was in the, like, very small
Beyond the
on the side.
moonlight's reach,
Whoa.
ancient shadow brandishes its hunting claws,
What?
taking
Who are
aim
you?
at the stars.
What were those wings?
You're right. I came here for the moon.
The moon, Mondstadt in parentheses. What? Anyways, massive sword, I love it. Interesting. build. When okay, her horns grow. Oh! Some kind of mark, crescent-shaped. What are we building to? Oh, Wild Hunt? The Abyss? Ooh.
I'm afraid you have the wrong person.
Ooh, interesting voice.
Be gone.
Ooh, the blue flames. Okay. Right, because the Light Keepers, I believe, like, fight against the Wild Hunt and the Abyss. Ooh. Ah. It all comes to you, damselette. What are you up to?
The future mirrors the past.
Future mirrors the
The veil of
past.
lies is slipping.
Veil of Lies. The false sky?
Time is short. The moon's fall.
Moon's Fall, we heard about that. The Tui or someone else is trying to make the moon fall. That where we left? No, a little bit more. Who are you?
Last. And things look
That's
even
Alice?
messier than last time.
This is Alice. Oh fuck, Alice design. Albedo
Well,
is
Miss
with
Alice,
her.
Shall we begin?
Albedo is... Hi, Alice.
There's no rush, and I'd like to catch up
Oh
with
my-
my friend first.
Yo!
And
I
you,
love that
young man?
design. The Scaramouche!
Let's part ways here.
Scaramouche is here.
I have an old score of my own to settle.
Oh, he's going to the Fatui. Oh, yeah. Oh my God. Night of the Still Mist, Rise of the New Moon. Interesting. Okay. I am stable. I am thinking well. I am processing information. All right, so for my own sake of sanity and having some kind of structure to talk about this, I'm going to go in chronological order, as usual. Some of the biggest things I want to talk about are at the very end there, but we'll get to those. First off, we have a voice asking, you wish to hear a story of the moon? And that is something that is sort of the framing of a lot of this initial portion. That tale begins long, long ago. This tale is told to us as we are shown these characters, and it has some interesting information. I am not deep enough into the lore to confidently say for certain what all of it means, but I will, based on what I know, try to sort of dig into it. But we open on Varka, who, as I pointed out, seems to have at least a version of Wolf's Gravestone as his weapon here. First off, this almost guarantees that he's a Claymore character. I don't see why he would be sharpening this blade, holding it on his shoulder, that kind of thing, if he wasn't, but it's also just a cool vibe. I know that plenty of people are sad that he isn't this super grizzled, massive, beefy guy with a full beard and stuff. I was very much of the people who was hopeful for that, but my expectations were tempered because this is Genshin we're talking about. But honestly, at least this gives some of the vibe that I think people were thinking was going to be missing. He has a little bit of gruffness to his voice. He seems a bit more built, at least in this teaser, than most characters. And just the imagery of the skilled warrior, the knight, the leader of this expedition, sharpening his blade, sitting on top an edge under a massive moon, incredibly solid vibes. I'm a fan of it. But then we have Aino calling out to him, evidently showing that wherever in Nod-Krai Varka is the same place as Aino. Presumably this is going to be sort of the main hub area based on what we've been seeing previously. We've been seeing a lot of this one sort of mechanical industrial spot, and that would line up with Aino's stuff of being sort of a scrounger mechanic type. Presumably it's in this town or city or whatever that is the home base of the Clink Clank workshop or whatever it was called. I think it was like Clink Clank Krunkake or something like that. But she's here to tell Varka that Nefer, or however you pronounce the name, is starting her story already, presumably being this story that we are being told of the moon. And who exactly Nefer is, I'm not entirely sure. It might be the character we see in a moment, it might be one of the other characters, or it might be a character we don't actually get shown. I'm not entirely sure. If we somehow know outside of just this one teaser who that is without leaks, then feel free to let me know. But then as Varka just thanks her for the heads up but doesn't really get up or move, she moves off as we go into this crack in the floor to reveal this hideout or house or whatever. Potentially it is the home base of the workshop. We see that Nefa's here, so either this is set before 5.8 and before Nefa left on her journey, or this is a glimpse into the future of once Nefa has returned. I'm guessing it's the former, because I feel like Nefa might be the one to bring us to Nod-Krai. But nonetheless, we have this character, which might be Nefer, but I don't think so, because Aino was saying that they've started their story already, where this person is just resting, sort of maybe even sleeping, so probably not. But more interesting to me is we have Durin here. He's got a tail, he's got what looks like sort of subtle wings, he's got his horns. I'm loving him. But to focus on her, having taken a quick look at the description here, I'm willing to take a guess that this person is Jehoda, but something else I'm actually taking note of is the fact that it says here Nicole of the Hexenzirkel as the first name. Is that supposed to be the voice at the very beginning? I feel like the voice should be Nefer because we have this voice beginning to tell a story, and then Aino saying Nefer has already begun their story, but perhaps it is. Though this isn't perfectly in order of character appearance, it seems like it might be in order of voice appearance. What I mean by that is the fact that though we see Varka first, we hear Aino first. So if we go by that logic, the voice telling the story of the moon would be Nicole. We then hear Aino, then Varka, then Jehoda, and later on we're going to hear Nefer. For now, at least, I'm going to consider this person Jehoda, and Jehoda is interesting. I like her vibe so far. The thing that intrigues me most about her is this seemingly mechanical prosthetic arm. I like the vibe of it. It has like some different aspects to it, very much that sort of scrapped together vibe that it seems like the workshop has. Because we have this design of mechanical hand that I'm struggling to place where exactly I've seen it before, but it's absolutely a design we've seen before. Like that style of the fingers with the joint diamonds and that kind of thing. But then the forearm is absolutely anything but that design. It's this big cylinder. It's got these bits of art on it. Clearly just sort of the vibe of the workshop to do these more sort of chaotic looking designs with the art on it and things. And I just sort of like the vibe that one of the people from the workshop, assuming she is from the workshop, has integrated into her design this idea of scrounged together mechanics. But moving on, she wakes up, she stretches, she yawns. And based from this one look alone, with the one eye closed, the one eye open, the star in the eye, and the sort of cat-like mouth shape, absolutely gives me the idea that she is the sort of slightly mischievous, playful type of character. And as she stands up, she just starts talking about the moon. The moon's a long way off. It's almost as if she's picking up on a conversation with Durin that she was having before she fell asleep. But we follow Jehoda as she is pacing around Durin. And lining up with the impression I had of her from that initial look, I'm getting some other vibes of that. She has this little snaggletooth thing that very much gives off that same general mischievous, playful, potentially a little bratty vibe. And the fact that she's saying the moon's a long way off, we might go hungry, is very sort of goofy and playful and sarcastic. And it's continued with her saying, but at least we have plenty of time. But then she looks at Durin and sort of notices something, and it becomes clear here that she's looking at his horns. It's almost as if she didn't properly look at him until now, which maybe could give us an idea that she's sort of dismissive to others, maybe a bit egotistical, but either way, she takes note of his horns, and she thinks it's a headpiece, saying that headpiece of yours is pretty unique, and she immediately is asking who designed it. If she is a mechanic or designer or something like that, it makes sense that that would be something she's curious about. She sees something unique, she gets interested in something, and she wants to know who built it, how they built it, that kind of thing. But she's also immediately to the could you hook me up? She's trying to make connections. It looks like even if she is not explicitly a businesswoman, she is that potentially more social-minded person, business-minded person, getting connections, meeting up with people, making deals, that kind of thing. But Durin is completely unresponsive this entire time, doesn't look up at her, doesn't really acknowledge her at all, just sort of moves to put his hand on his chest as he's looking into his drink. And this evidently annoys her, she's pouting here. But then we focus on what Durin is doing, what he's thinking. He's looking into his drink. He's very contemplative. We could also interpret him as being a bit shy. It's hard to say exactly what his personality is, because though we have some sense of Durin the dragon and Durin the friend, we do not know who this Durin turned out to be. But we can understand at least something of what he's thinking right now. Hand to his chest, looking into his drink, his reflection in the drink ripples, and he sinks into the drink, only for it then to turn into the silhouette of a dragon, of Durin the monster. This is clearly Durin looking at himself in the reflection and seeing this monster look back at him. And of course, whether this is just sort of an internalized fear of this is a monster within me that I could unleash if I'm not careful, or it quite possibly could be that there is literally the two Durins inside of this one person. And currently, the Durin we've made friends with is the one in charge and in control, but there is that concern and fear that the monster could take over. But either way, this is meant to be that acknowledgement of either there's that possibility of it taking over, or that some piece of that is integrated into the friend we once knew, and there is that danger, that power there that could be unleashed. But from here, we return to the story of the moon, and we enter this very distinct art style. And it's here that we learn from whoever's telling the story, I'm going to say it's Nicole for now, telling us, in that era, at the beginning of the story of the moon, there was no boundary between life and death. And visually, we're seeing the three moons. We've heard some of this story from the Song of the Welkin Moon and just lore in general prior. And we see these moons morph and change into people. In all likelihood, they were literally divine entities of some kind or something along those lines. As we see them, we are told willpower flowed freely among countless beings. The barrier of life and death was not real. Willpower was flowing freely amongst everything, everyone. But then we begin to hear of the primordial being that once ruled this planet. Presumably the primordial one? You don't use the word primordial in context to an ancient being that ruled the planet when there is a figure named the primordial one without it referencing them. I find that incredibly unlikely, but it is hypothetically possible that this is talking about something prior, but I am assuming it is the primordial one we are speaking of, and we are told that the primordial one made the three moons that rose from the earth. The primordial one, during their era of rule, they are the one responsible for creating the moons. But then as we exit that art style, we have the moons fade into a blue flame that then we reveal is in a lantern held by this person. I like his vibe. It seems like he's probably a light keeper. Given that he's holding a lantern and all that stuff, just makes sense to me. But the story of the moon continues. It was not until the funerary year, which, if I'm remembering my lore correctly, is the period when the second who came arrived and conflict ensued. I forget all of the exact details, but the main thing I remember is this is when a lot of stuff went to shit because the second who came arrived. That's what the funerary year is, I believe. So with this next line, we're being told that it wasn't until the second who came that the primordial voice once again cried out in the darkness, which sort of implies that the primordial one created the moons among all of the other things they did, and then went silent for a long time, and only awoke or cried out, made themselves known once more when their rule was tested. Then we move on from that guy, briefly leave the story alone, as we go to the Fatui, and more specifically, Sandrone, the marionette. We seem to be inside some kind of Fatui base or device or factory, potentially the interior of that massive dome device that we've seen. And we have a random Fatui approaching Sandrone, evidently here to give some news, but Sandrone already seems to understand some of the intent of their message. It's the Frost Moon Scions again. They're getting in the Fatui's way. We've already had implications that the Frost Moon Scions and the Fatui are the main two butting heads currently. It very much seems like the Fatui and the Frost Moon Scions are going up against each other, and the Light Keepers are protecting against the Wild Hunt, and potentially the other factions are butting heads as well in their own ways. But we'll see. Despite this, she is not impressed. She calls it a laughably futile rebellion. Even if they're getting in the Fatui's way, Sandrone does not believe that the Frost Moon Scions pose a threat. They merely waste time. But from there, naturally, we immediately transition to the Frost Moon Scions, and more specifically her. If we assume that my theory of the names in the description here are the order of characters' voices first being heard, Enefa and Durin are the one sort of snagging that idea because neither of them actually really speak, but it also matches up with appearance, largely speaking. But if we are going by that, then Potentially, this Frost Moon Scion woman's name is Loma, or Lama. I don't know how to say it. I'm gonna say Loma. I think I'm gonna go by that pronunciation and inevitably be wrong. But we have Loma walking into a lake, the ocean, a body of water, as we have the reflection of the moon, and she speaks to the Frost Moon. "O pale white Frost Moon, I, your loyal emissary and scion of Hyperborea, beseech you to cast down your gaze." She is calling out to the Frost Moon, to this entity, this figure that she evidently worships, or follows, or something along those lines. "May your gentle tears pierce through the rigid night, and grant us the forsaken and forgotten." She is making a plea to the Frost Moon, a wish for it to guide her, to guide the Frost Moon Scions in their battle against the Fatui, I would imagine. She's asking for its guiding light. She likely sees that the Fatui are up to something, that their plan could threaten the very heavens themselves, the moon itself. And so she is making this plea, guide us, help us, let us see through the night. And as I called out in the reaction itself, it's at this point that the Song of the Welkin Moon motif that we had from the web event song enters the music. The sound we had been hearing was that of the Frost Moon Scions, or if not the Frost Moon itself. That motif very well may be a through line of the moon, the song of the moon. This motif very well may be the Song of the Welkin Moon itself. We will likely hear this motif again and again and again, and it will likely, at least thematically and emotionally, hold a deep importance and relevance to the story as a whole in Nod-Krai. Nod-Krai's story is the Song of the Welkin Moon, and this motif is an identifiable piece of music that was the first thing we heard of Nod-Krai. It will be important. Keep an ear out for it. But moving on, what I find interesting is after Lauma asked the moon for guidance, for a guiding light, aid through the darkness, we transition back to Varka. Will Varka be that guiding light? Will he be what ushers in the guiding light? Or is he merely another person sitting under the moon seeking guidance? Or, as we'll get to in a moment here, seeking something else entirely. And it's here that we're introduced to this woman, which, going off of my same theory with the list of names, would be Nefer, which I can believe this is her, because if we're going by the logic that the first voice we heard isn't Nefer, this is really the only person I can think of who would be Nefer, so I'm going to go with that for now. But interestingly enough, at least at this initial moment, she's just sitting here quietly next to Varka as he sharpens his blade, not even looking at him initially. I also just compared voices, and I don't think she sounds like the voice that has been telling the story, so I'm going with that. But she says, you didn't come here for the story. Even if she is telling the same story, or Varka is hearing this story that we're being told, Nefer believes that that isn't why he's here. He isn't interested in this story of the ancient times, of the moon's rise, and the battle of the primordial one and the second who came. And his initial response is just, finished already, huh? Perhaps she was telling the story, it's just we have a different voice telling it to us, or she told a different story. I'm not entirely sure, but he evidently was listening, but she is still skeptical. But she says, no, the story isn't over. It's just a greater storyteller than myself has come. And with this, we transition to this woman. Naturally, based on the framing of this is this greater storyteller. And given that we have the same voice that was telling the story we were hearing before of the moon, when we come to this character, it makes me think that this is Nicole, which is wild, because that means this is revealing the appearance of two Hexenzirkel members in one teaser. Shortly after we got the reveal of Reindodir, we are moving. But to listen to what she's saying, she says, beyond the moonlight's reach, an ancient shadow brandishes its hunting claws. I'm not entirely sure who she's speaking of, but it is an ancient shadow. I feel like if she was speaking of the primordial one, the heavenly principles, she would just call it the primordial shadow, so probably not. I'm not entirely sure who this could be or what this could be. There's a cavalcade of ancient shadows that this could be referring to, but it's taking aim at the stars, which in a way implies taking aim at the false sky. Maybe the Fatui have unearthed something in an attempt to break the false sky, or maybe this is some other figure. Maybe it even is the damselette. She seems fairly mysterious and almost primordial in her own way. There's a lot of things it could be, and I'm not entirely sure. But then we return to Varka, who stands up, swings his blade, and says, you're right. I came here for the moon. And this is the first time we get a good, proper look at his face. And the little scar I like, the look on his face I like. I'm vibing with him. I very much would enjoy a bit of beard on him, but I think they did good for what they're going for. And also, just to acknowledge what he's saying, I am incredibly intrigued by what this means, by the fact that it has Mondstadt in parentheses next to moon. He came for the moon, which is Mondstadt? He started this expedition for some reason. He has traveled the world in search of something, and now we are told he came for the moon, and that it somehow has a connection or purpose to Mondstadt. I honestly have no idea what this could be inferring, but it paints an interesting picture. We have the Fatui, who seemingly are trying to pull down and destroy the moon. We have some ancient being who's setting their sights on the stars themselves. We have the Frost Moon Scions, who plea to the moon, and we have Varka, who has come for the moon in whatever context that means. If he intends to take it with him, if he intends to destroy it, if he intends to protect it, it is unclear. Everyone is here for the moon and the stars. But from him, we return to Loma, who now has this ceremonial dagger with this crescent moon shape in it. And as she does something with it that we can't see because we look at her from behind, her horns grow. This is some kind of ritual, likely a ritualistic plea to the moon, some kind of call. And paying attention to her hand, you can see she cut her palm. This is some kind of ritualistic blood thing going on. And she seems to use her own blood to make this vaguely crescent moon shape on her forehead, which, interestingly enough, her blood, at least in this moment, in this ritual, is this pale blue color. Perhaps she is some kind of fae based on her ears, or some other inhuman being, or perhaps it is just in this ritual, in this moment, in this call, this wish to the moon, that her blood is changed. It could be a lot of things, but it's interesting. We also get right here, it might have been visible when we got the glimpse of her in the 5.8 stuff, but I only noticed it now, she is Dendro. She has a Dendro vision. Cool to know. But we watch as a drop of her blood drips into the water. And from there, this dark red force seems to be awakened. It's probably just a transition, but it is a cool one at that. And we watch as these dark red shapes morph and twist and coalesce into these vague clawed hands. Almost certainly this is some kind of representation of the abyss, of the wild hunt. As we watch these claws launch out and try to grasp at him, which once again, following this pattern that I'm seeing, would be Kyril. Kyril Chudomarovich Flins. And as he just watches these hands struggle to try to grasp at him, he says, rather casually, "I'm afraid you have the wrong person. Now, be gone," as he has this blue flame in his hand that he uses to cast away this darkness. It's very cool, a little cocky, a little playful. It gives the vibe that he's used to this kind of thing, used to the darkness itself trying to grasp him and pull him down. But he has the power to stop it. And it's from here that we finally see the damselette, the Moon Maiden. She is in this space that seems separate from everything, almost unreal. And I think this may be her talking here, saying, in the water, the future mirrors the past. Yeah, it's much more obvious that it's her talking here with her lips moving here. The veil of lies is slipping. The future mirrors the past, and the veil of lies is slipping. What does this mean? Who knows? But it makes me think of this idea that history is repeating itself. The conflicts of the past will be repeated in the present. The lies of the world that are veiled over it are falling apart. People are understanding the state of reality. People understand what they have been trapped in, that the false sky is not real, that it can be shattered. The rule of Celestia is not absolute. Perhaps it's saying that another war of the gods, of these primordial beings, is coming. To tie it back to the story of the moons that we were told, it very well could be saying that with us learning more as a descender, as one of these figures capable of changing fate, as we grow to understand what is happening and this veil of lies slips off of us, that we will ignite a war for Tevat's reality, against the heavenly principles, against the primordial one, much like the Second Who Came did. It could be a ton of things that this is meant to be referencing, but that's sort of where my mind is at. Time is short. The moon's fall is nigh. The moon will not remain in the sky forever. I'm guessing it's the Fatui, but whoever it is intends to pull the moon down, and perhaps already has by the time of 5.8. And the damselette is aware of this. The Moon Maiden knows that the time of the moon is ending. Is the fall of the moon what shepherds in this new grand war? The loss of the veil of lies? The repetition of the past in the present? We do not get the answer. But there's a little bit more for us. We have Alice arriving in Nod-Krai. She's finally arrived. She arrives shortly before us, it would seem. And things look even messier than last time, implying she's been here before, implying that she can recognize how chaotic everything is. The Fatui are up to something. The Frostmoon Scions are trying to stop them. Varka and his expedition is here. The Wild Hunt, the Abyss itself, is on the rise. Everything's in chaos. And Alice is here for some reason. Who knows? All we know is that Albedo is with her, and he asks her, "Shall we begin, Miss Alice?" There is some plan, some intention, some goal that they are enacting. We have no idea what it is, but Alice is here for a purpose. She is not just on a stroll. Albedo would not have come with her if that was the case. But before she responds, this message comes to her, this origami bird that she flips out into a page, presumably a letter of some kind. And she says, "There's no rush, and I'd like to catch up with an old friend first." Presumably that is Nicole, seeing as we know she is in Nod-Krai. They are both Hexencircle after all. But either way, it seems that she is not concerned by the timetable of their plan. She believes that they have time to enact it, regardless of how messy everything is. Also, unsurprising but interesting, she is a pyro user. Not at all surprising. Like mother, like daughter. And while we're touching on just things about her character and design and stuff, I'm very intrigued by her outfit, especially this sort of halo ring thing that is evocative of a hat, because it distinctly is not a hat. It is this weird sort of golden ring. It's really interesting, because though it evokes sort of the brim of a witch's hat, it is very much not. And I sort of like that. I was okay with the glimpse of her we had where it was just the big ol' witch hat, but I honestly sort of like the vibe of this. But then she reveals it's not just her and Albedo who have arrived in Nod-Krai. They brought the Wanderer. Whether they intended from the start to bring him, or he just ran into them and joined them, Scaramouche returns to Shnesnaya. The man forgotten by the Harbingers and the Fatui returns to settle an old score. Even if he is involved in Alice's plan, he's not tied to her hip. He says, "Let's part ways here. I have an old score of my own to settle. You can go meet with your old friend, and I will meet with some of mine." I quite wonder if the person he is thinking of in particular is the Doctor, Dottore, or if he is more just thinking the Fatui in general. It's quite possible that Wanderer here will be facing off with the Doctor, butting heads with him directly. He has plenty of reason to have his anger and aggression pointed at him directly. He's the Harbinger we've seen him interact with the most. And it just makes me incredibly excited that we potentially have the Wanderer in the main plot again. He was easily one of my favorite pieces of the Sumeru storyline. His arc, his everything there was really interesting to me, and I've been concerned that we wouldn't really get much from him again for a while, but this makes me really happy. Because first off, let's look at this from another perspective. We have two truly returning characters here, Wanderer and Albedo. In most ways, they have no connections, no relation. Why did they come to Nod-Krai together? But very recently, that changed. Wanderer is the one who befriended Durin, and Albedo is the one who fused the two Durins, turning them into what they are now. These two, alongside Durin, form an interesting little trio, an odd collection of people. So in that sense, with Durin being relevant to the plot, it makes sense that these two would return. I know that plenty of people were sad that the Wanderer didn't appear in Paralogism, but this maybe will make up for it. Why have Wanderer in just one tiny piece of the story when he can be part of a major plotline? Him, Durin, and Albedo can form this little group, a little trio that, at least in this point in time, in this place, they are not representing any group. They are not following a greater goal of some faction. It seems like they are working with Alice, and therefore hypothetically the Hexencircle, but we have yet to see if Alice's plan and goal that Albedo is asking about has to do with Durin, or if these three are more so just this separate mobile unit. Whatever it is, though, I am incredibly happy, because another thing this means, this is opening up the door to more characters becoming relevant to the main plot again. Really, the only other case of this, outside of some of the more between storylines, has been Child, Mr. Worldwide, as we've called him. But now other lore-relevant characters, major players, are returning. And that just makes me excited for these two, because they are characters I'm a big fan of, and the future, who's coming next. Will we have anyone else in Nod-Krai we've met before? Or will Chesnaya be where we have other people? Regardless, it makes me very excited. But that is what they give us. It's a lot without being too much. It's incredibly hype, incredibly exciting. Presumably this isn't all of the characters we're going to be getting, because I think there's a few factions not represented in what we've seen. But nonetheless, all of these characters intrigue me. Varka's exciting to see more properly. Nicole and Alice finally properly appearing is incredibly hype. During coming back was inevitable, but really cool. I like that a lot, especially with Wanderer and Albedo coming alongside. Inefa and by extension Aino are characters that I'm very intrigued by and want to know more about. The Damselette is this fucking insane question mark in everything that I'm desperate to find out. Sandrone being here is really cool. She's clearly representing the Fatui in this. We know the Doctor is going to be around as well, but she's clearly going to be sort of the flagship representing the Fatui Harbinger, where Damselette, though even more front-facing in this than her, feels like she's going to be more of a wild card, going after her own goals and intentions, potentially going rogue. We have Kyril, who is representing the Light Wardens, presumably. Really like his vibe, really interested in what his deal is going to be. And though we get less on these two, I do like their vibes and am interested to learn more. And then of course her, she's really interesting. They've really been focusing on her. She clearly is representing the Frost Moon Scions, and I'm just very interested to know more about their deal. But with that, I really would just be rambling if I continued anymore. So I think I'm going to cut things off here. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, and very special thanks to all of my channel members, being Desaize and Pokolov at the normal person tier, and Kondo Nano at the cool person tier. Really appreciate your support, as always, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye!